Welcome to the Coaching Bootcamp, brought to you by the TIMCA Academy. In this video, we are going to explore what the bootcamp is all about. As always, if you want to follow along with your notes, we are looking at page 1 of 3. So let's first of all look at the features of the bootcamp program. The program emphasizes intensive learning, which will draw on your growth mindset skills. So it's designed to be fast-paced, detailed, in-depth. So you will be drawing on your growth mindset skills in terms of thinking about making mistakes, putting in effort, persistence, keep trying. All the things that you know about a growth mindset will come in to support you. In the bootcamp, we are going to explore topics that relate to the Maths Club program design. And we're doing that because we want to deepen your knowledge of how the program supports learning. And I've kept it very unspecific here. It's about supporting learning in any form. Yes, it could be about the maths clubs, but it also could be about working with adults in other spaces. So this intensive learning will require, like I said, a growth mindset from yourselves. It will require the ability to work on your own and also with others as a team, with the bootcamp coaching team. It will require planning and time management on your part, and there may be some self-directed learning as we go through, which means you need to sort of do some investigation, some learning, some reflection, etc. on your own. Let's have a look in a bit more detail as to the things, the aspects, the topics that we're going to explore in the bootcamp program. So the first one is to understand what this club design is and how it supports learning. So I've mentioned that in terms of it being about maths clubs, but also about other spaces that people might learn in. And this draws on my work that I did in the Eastern Cape and on my doctorate, and we will explore in detail what this design is. We will also then dig deeper into how we learn mathematics and how we can facilitate that learning for other people. So I don't really want to use the word teach. I'll put the word teach in quotes. So, how do people learn maths? What are the processes? What are the pathways that they take to learn maths? And then how can we use that to help other people learn maths? So this is a very maths-specific topic that we will explore in the bootcamp. We will also look at how we can facilitate learning spaces for adults and children. So what are the skills that we need? What are the different ways that we can do it, that we can make spaces into learning spaces so that people can learn anything. They can learn maths, they can learn how to run clubs, they can learn how to coach others, etc. We'll also then dig into how you can guide the people that you're working with, and you can support them in their learning. Lots of different ways that you can do this, which we will explore over time. Then we're also going to look at the ways that we can collect information about the children in the clubs. So again, this is very specific to the clubs. And then how we can use this, why it might be useful for supporting them in their learning, guiding them in their learning, knowing where they are in their process, in their pathway, and so on. So some of this will be about maths and guiding their learning of mathematics, but some of it might also be about how can we see where they are in developing their own growth mindset. And then finally, and this is a large part of the bootcamp, and this is specific to you as a coach, you will take, or we will take, a metacognitive approach to your learning. And we're going to unpack this a little bit more as we go along. So these are the aspects that we're going to explore in the bootcamp that I've just gone through. These are in your notes. So these are broad, high-level topics, and we're obviously going to dig down deeper into them as we move forward. So let's have a look at this idea of metacognition, because I said that you are going to be taking a metacognitive approach to your learning. So metacognition is awareness or analysis of our own learning and thinking processes. So it's about being aware of how we learn and interrogating and asking questions about that process. So it comes down to how well we understand our own learning processes. Everybody learns differently, so this is a very, very personal thing because we will be interrogating your own process. Part of it is about relating and connecting your new learning to what you already know, so that things don't occur in a vacuum. Yeah, everything is connected. So as you learn something new, how does this relate to what I already know? So we can think of metacognition as thinking about thinking or learning about learning. And research has shown that when we learn to think critically about our own thought processes, it can improve our creativity, our planning, and problem-solving skills. So not only does it help us to learn better, but it also has other benefits beyond the learning. So how will we think about our thinking? How will we do this? So the key is asking ourselves self-reflective questions. So these are questions that we reflect, but we're reflecting on our own processes, not something that's happening outside of us. It's happening within us. And the questions are very powerful because they allow us to take stock of or to understand three things. First of all, the questions help us to understand where we currently are. Where are we? Thinking about what we already know. The second thing is thinking about how we learn. So when I'm learning, we can ask ourselves questions about what is working. What is not working? Did I learn something from that? Did I not learn anything? Why? And the third thing is where we want to be. Assessing if we've learned what we wanted to. Okay, so these are the high-level reasons for why we ask the self-reflective questions. Let's actually look at some questions. So we will constantly be asking ourselves questions like this. What do I notice? What stands out to me? What makes me wonder? So when you're starting to read and listen to, watch and hear new learning, new understanding, these are some questions you could ask. What stands out to me? What makes me wonder? What makes me curious? Is this new to me? What do I recognize? Is this something that I already know, or is it something that touches on something that I already know? If it's something that I do know, or if it's totally new, how do I connect this to what I already know? Is there a connection? What questions do I have? Hopefully, always you're going to have loads of questions. what did I find difficult when I was learning about this new thing? What have I discovered? What's new? How did I find that out? How did I find that out? What was my process? What did I learn? How did I learn it? What was my process? What makes this idea important? So from what I've learned, why is it important? Okay, so these are some of the types of questions that we're going to ask. We're not going to ask all of them all of the time. It depends on what we're learning and what we're doing. But you will see these questions coming up in various places at the end of a session, at the end of a video, at the end of an activity. And they will help us, or help you, to think about your thinking or to think about your learning processes. Okay, moving on, we are looking at your notes. We're on page 2 of 3 now. And we're going to just have a very high-level overview of this club program design that I mentioned earlier. So this has been adapted from my academic work and from my work of being the club coordinator in the Eastern Cape. And the design is simplified into 3 interconnected zones. So there's a zone of environment, there's a zone of promoted activities, and there's a zone of learning. So we've got environment, promoted activities, learning. And that gives us a visual or a diagram or whatever you want to call it of the design of the club program. So we're going to look at each of these 3 things in more detail now. And at the bottom of the screen here you can see this is adapted from a very early paper that I did with Melanie Graven about the design for the clubs. So this visual diagram not only helps us to think more clearly about the design of the club program. So yes, the program is about maths, but it could actually work for any learning. So it could work for learning about language, it could work for learning about science. Okay, so it's about a learning program. So it gives us a way to think about the design of that, but it also gives us a structure for our learning in the TIMCA Academy and very much in the Bootcamp. So a lot of what we're going to do and what we're going to learn about will fall into one of these circles. So we might be learning about something that's to do with activities. We might learn about something that's to do with learning, or something about the supportive environment. Okay, so these are things that if you've been doing the learning labs with me, you will see that those learning labs will also fall into these circles. So most of the topics that we cover in the bootcamp will refer to this diagram so that we know where the topic fits into the whole. So watch out for the diagram, because I'll use it as a marker on topics so that we know which bit we're looking at. So let's quickly dig deeper into each of the zones. So let's look first at the environment zone. So this is how the environment is set up or organized to promote and support learning. So it's very much an environmental thing, but don't forget that the environment, yes, it can be physical, but it can also be how people feel in that space. It's about a space, okay? So the environment includes the learning culture, the learning vibe, the learning ethos. And it also then reflects the values of the people who participate. So what's important to them in that environment? What is it that they're trying to do there? Yeah, and why are they trying to do it? The environment zone will also include the promotion of a growth mindset. If that's important, then that's what will be promoted in that space or in that environment. It'll include the organization of the environment, so things like how the time is used, what the working space looks like. Are there desks? Do people sit on the floor? Do they stand? Are they in a classroom? Are they in a container? Are they outside? Are people free to move around in the environment, or do they have to sit down in the environment? So it includes, the organization of it. It also includes, it comes together. So the environment can be set up in various ways. Okay, so it could be set up completely by the adults. So in other words, it could be set up by you as a coach and say, this is how the environment is going to work. Okay, or it could be set up by the children in the environment, or the people who are learning. Maybe not. Or it could be set up through the joint interactions of everybody who is participating in that space. So the way that it tends to work is that for clubs is that as adults and as coaches, we go in and we set up the environment, we organize it, and we, create the culture and so on. But over time, it's the joint interaction between yourself as the adult and the coach and the children who are there, or the people who are learning, that then determine what the vibe and the ethos is. Yes? So it can come together in different ways, but it does tend to move initially from the adults setting the environment up to it being an environment that includes everybody's participation. And it also includes how the participants are encouraged to interact with each other. Are they encouraged to listen, to communicate, to support each other? Or are they encouraged to simply sit there and work hard? Okay? So that's the environment zone. Let's look now at the promoted activities zone. So the definition is activities that attempt to persuade a person to act or learn in a certain way. Okay, let's unpack that. So it's about having a toolbox, a collection of meaningful activities that stimulate embracing the next step on the learning path. So this is about having activities that help people, children, to learn new knowledge and to learn new skills. Okay, so once we understand what a mathematical learning path looks like, how can we ask them or encourage them to embrace what happens next and to take on the new learning? So we have to have activities that will allow them to do that. Alternatively, we might also have activities that allow for consolidation of learning, because we cannot be learning new stuff all the time. So we have to learn something new and then to practice and consolidate it. Okay, so it's about having a set of activities or a suite of activities that will allow these two things to happen: new learning or consolidation of learning. So it's a planned range of activities that are on offer or that are available to promote learning. That's one thing we want people to do. We want them to learn. And we can use activities like games, mental warm-up, songs, written work, paired work, individual work. This is our library or our toolbox of activities that we have that will help people to learn. There might also be activities that we offer that will promote a growth mindset. Okay, so when we design the activities or when we choose an activity, we know that it's going to be one that will help children to develop a growth mindset, or the people that we're working with. The activities also include collecting information from participants to guide learning and growth. So if we collect information about what children can do from a maths point of view, that will help us to guide their learning. If we collect information from them about what their current mindset is about learning, that can guide us to help them to grow towards a growth mindset. Okay, so the activities are about a toolbox of things that we can do, that we can offer to people for learning, consolidation, but also as information for us as coaches so that we can guide. Finally, we've got the learning zone. Now, again, the definition is a set of possibilities for learning afforded by both the environment and the activities that we offer. So let's unpack this a bit. So this is a combination that interactively generates the space in which people learn. So we have set up the environment, we've got information about where the people are, mathematically or otherwise, and we've got a set of activities that we can offer them that they can do for either learning or consolidation. And so the combination of the environment and the activities give us a space where people can learn. Okay? And the learning zone includes, as you would expect, the ways that we facilitate new learning. How do we introduce and get people to learn new things? That can happen through social interaction and through engagement with the activities. So the social interaction is paired work, group work, talking, communicating, and the activities that will then push the children or the people forward to the next stage of their new learning. But it also includes the ways that we can give people opportunities to practice so that they can consolidate their existing knowledge and understand and build their confidence with what they already know. So if they've learned something new, how can we now give them opportunities, activities, and so on to practice that knowledge and to consolidate it? This is what happens in the learning zone. Okay, so we will continuously expand on what each of the zones includes in our boot camp. So watch out for the diagram on your notes and in the videos, because we, as I said, each topic will perhaps fall into one of the circles. It might fall into two of the circles at the same time, but everything that we do will build on these three things. Okay, so that's the introduction to the ideas, the topics, the background to the boot camp. I'm hoping that you are looking forward to engaging with these ideas and to digging deeply into this new knowledge. Okay, we're now looking at page 3 of 3, and we're going to do an activity. Well, I'm going to ask you to do an activity on your own. I want you to think of a place in your recent peer-to-peer learning or the learning lab materials where you might have come across self-reflection questions that help you develop metacognition. So as coaches, you've been participating in your peer-to-peer learning, which has been about mathematics, and you've also been doing the learning lab videos and the activities together. So I want you to think about the materials that have been provided for you for both of those things and see if you can think where you have seen self-reflection questions, because there are self-reflection questions in those materials, and I want you to start making connections between what you're doing here and stuff that you are already doing. So why are we doing this? This is your first metacognitive reflection activity, and it's about making you aware of the connections to things that you already do in other places. So I've told you that there are some questions somewhere in the notes and resources from those other places. See if you can find them. When you find them, read through the questions that you've found. And then ask yourself, do any of them align with any of these questions in the diagram? So you found the question, and the question says XYZ. Does that match with one of these questions? Okay, in any way. So that's your task, is to see if you can find where those reflective questions are, and then to see how they match up with these ideas here. So that's your activity. I want you to do that on your own. If you want to then talk to the other bootcamp coaches about what you think you've found, you're welcome to do that. We will get together and talk about it when we have our first face-to-face session. And then there's some homework for you as well. Have you heard of metacognition before? If you have, where did you hear about it? Where? So when did you first come across it? The other question is, have you ever asked yourself questions like this? If so, when? And then this idea of metacognition, how does this connect to what you know about a growth mindset? Are there any connections between metacognition and a growth mindset? That's for you to think about. So there's your homework. You've got an activity to do, which will not take you very long, take you about 5 to 10 minutes. And you've got some questions to think about as some homework. I would encourage you to start yourself a new notebook for the boot camp, and to write down all your responses and your thoughts in that notebook, so that as you go along you can always compare and look back and reflect on what you've said before and how that might connect to new things that you are learning. Have fun, and I'll see you in our first contact session soon.